This Council resumes the second reading debate on the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products, Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2025. Mr. Edward Lau, Chairman of the Bills Committee on the bill, will first address the Council on the committee's report. Mr. Edward Lau.
President, in my capacity as Chairman of the Bills Committee on Promotion of Recycling and Proper Disposal of Products, Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2025, I now report on the major deliberations of the committee. The major purpose of the bill is to amend the Product Eco-Responsibility Ordinance, the Waste Disposal Ordinance, and their subsidiary legislations. This is to introduce producer responsibility schemes, or PRS, for various products under which suppliers, retailers, or scheme operators are required to make arrangements for the recovery of those products. Members generally support the polluter pays principle and the concept of eco-responsibility of PRSs, as well as the adoption of a market-led approach for the implementation of such schemes. Members also recognize the importance of adopting a common legal framework for the implementation of PRS. Members agreed there should be a common legislative framework to enhance the efficiency of the legislative process. Some members are concerned that the compliance costs of implementing new PRSs would increase the financial burden on registered suppliers. Some other members are concerned that registered suppliers might pass on the additional costs to consumers, turning producer responsibility into consumer responsibility. According to the administration, to enshrine the polluter pays principle, the recovery costs for PRSs will be shared by relevant stakeholders in the supply chain. The adoption of a market-led approach in future PRSs will enable stakeholders to make efficient and cost-effective recycling arrangements. The administration's preliminary plan is to exempt small suppliers from certain legal operations to reduce their administrative burden. Also, the initial statutory recovery targets will be set at a more pragmatic level. All these arrangements will help reduce the compliance costs. Given the prevalence of consumption patterns such as online shopping, group buying, and proxy buying, the committee is concerned that if relevant suppliers do not have a physical place of business in Hong Kong, it will be difficult for the administration to enforce the requirements of PRSs. The administration said it will follow up on suspected violations and, depending on the specific circumstances of each case, determine whether there is a violation and take enforcement actions. On the recovery of waste products, members urged the administration to carefully consider the method to verify recovery quantities, sampling frequency, and manpower arrangements under different scenarios to ensure that the information in the annual audit report submitted by registered suppliers and scheme operators is accurate. The administration said that taking the proposed PRS for plastic beverage containers and cartons as an example, some companies prefer using reverse vending machines to check whether the recovered containers are registered beverage products through barcode verification. There are also organizations that plan to adopt a weight-based recovery approach. The administration will consider requiring registered suppliers and scheme operators to establish a verification mechanism and state clearly in their producer responsibility plans the sampling and verification arrangements they adopt. The administration will conduct regular and surprise inspections targeting possible non-compliance. If data irregularities are identified, the administration will follow and investigate. The committee stresses that the provision of financial or other incentives to promote community-wide participation in recycling is a very important aspect of PRSs, as it enables the public to play a role in the scheme. Some members are of the view that while consumers will receive a rebate when they return waste products under the new PRS, the amount they get is not sufficient to offer any financial incentives. The administration advised that when setting the rebate level, the relevant trades will be consulted to ensure a proper balance between effectively encouraging public participation and the need to take into account the recovery cost. Registered suppliers and registered scheme operators will have the flexibility to increase the rebate amount based on their actual needs to ensure the statutory recovery targets can be met. The committee urged the administration to improve the entire resource recycling chain, continue to enhance the local recovery and recycling capacity for the relevant products, and expeditiously an implementation timetable for the various new PRSs. Members asked the administration to speed up the development of a circular economy with the mainland, to facilitate the flow and increase the value of recovered materials, thereby reducing the cost of recycling. Having considered members' views, the administration will propose a number of amendments to the bill, which mainly include the following. amending the proposed new sections 159 and 160 of the ordinance to change the vetting of future subsidiary legislations for individual products from negative vetting to positive vetting, and deleting the proposed new section 132(3)(a) to streamline the process by which retailers verify whether the regulated products sold have been registered. President, that's all for my report. Here are my personal views on the bill. This is the first time we roll out a legislative-led proposal on recycling, and I think that the participation of the market is important. Over the past 2 years, I have been reflecting the views of the trade, and I've been lining up the administration with the sector so that they can have communication. I want to commend the government's effort in sorting out the details, such as the rebate level and so on, so that we can narrow the division between the sector and the administration. I thank the administration for rolling out the common legislative framework. At first, the government proposed the making of subsidiary legislations to be subject to a negative vetting procedure. However, we will see different details for the different PRSs in future for different types of products. So the government took on board our views, and to ensure that there will be comprehensive discussions between this council and the administration to go through the details of each future PRS, and to strike a balance, the government has altered the vetting of future subsidiary legislations to positive vetting. I think this is a responsible decision made by the government, and during our discussion, the administration proactively responded to members' views, and it has also been communicating with the sectors. It adopted a pragmatic approach and an incremental approach in rolling out this legislative exercise. This is a good example of the good interaction between the legislature and the executive. After the passage of the bill, the PRS for plastic beverage containers and beverage cartons will be rolled out first. On the details of the two schemes, we will come up with the recovery targets and the rebate level and so on. And the sector has expressed their views on the future schemes, and many of their views have been taken on board by the government. We hope that the government will work hand in hand with the sectors to sort out the operational details of the future PRSs. The implementation of the future PRSs will definitely bring about additional costs on the supplier's side. The cost may be passed on to consumers, and this will affect the competitiveness of the sector. We have to promote environmental protection and at the same time maintain the market's competitiveness. We have to strike a balance and ensure a win-win proposal. The success of the future PRSs will depend on our recycling facilities. The rebate level may, to a certain extent, encourage consumers to recycle the regulated products. However, the success will depend on the convenience of recycling the products. Of course, it also depends on citizens' recycling habits as well as of our awareness of protecting the environment. If recycling facilities are full all the time, it may not be convenient for people to recycle the regulated products. The administration have to step up education and publicity so that recycling can become part of our lives. This can help us gradually implement the future PRSs, and this will help us achieve the goal set out in the blueprint. I hope the administration will continue to communicate with the sector so that we can ensure smooth implementation of the PRSs. Thank you.
Ms. Eunice Yong, thank you, Deputy President. I speak in support of the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products, Bill 2025. It is an important policy to develop green industries and to promote the development of circular economy. There is pressure on sustainable development worldwide. We need to formulate a resource circulation or a resource recycling chain. The PRS has a common legislative framework. Otherwise, it'd be difficult to provide different schemes for different types of products. Now we have a common legislative framework. Then we can make subsidiary legislation in order to meet the different needs in the market as well as different calls in society. Then we can cut waste at source. And at the same time, this will promote the upgrading and transformation of different industries from design, manufacture, distribution, disposal. Different business opportunities will be created. Suppliers will place more emphasis on whether products could be recycled. One-off packaging will also be reduced. There will also be RVM, that is reverse vending machines. Transportation, sorting, information management, different posts will be created. Recycling network and facilities will also be developed in order to drive the upgrading of different industries in Hong Kong. Barcodes and logos will be affixed to products. We can leverage on AI and digitalization to significantly enhance the efficiency of recycling. This will provide more application scenarios for tech enterprises in Hong Kong. We can also make good use of Internet of Things and green digital industries to develop Hong Kong into a regional hub for circular economy. This will also attract more new blood to the recycling industry. This bill not only promotes recycling, it also promotes reuse, plastic, metal, glass, battery, and so on. These are examples. If they are turned into new products, there will be a significant jump in their market value. Through upcycling and resource recycling, these are exactly the highlights of the green economy in the future. Therefore, the government needs to set up recovery targets, but it also needs to subsidize and support local industries to put more resources into recycling. This will drive the innovation of the industries. Industries should be subsidized to upgrade their factories. More industries should be encouraged to groom their talents and to take more part in different training and activities. They should be encouraged to partner up with the academia to develop different products so that we can see commercialization in Hong Kong. This will lay the foundation for a circular economy that will also serve as new growth points for the development of local economy. The government needs to step up publicity so the members of the public will understand recycling is not just for environmental protection. It will also be conducive to upgrading and transformation of the industry and a diversification of the local economy. I hope the government will work more closely with different sectors, such as the retail sector in Hong Kong. This will significantly increase the coverage of the local recycling rate. Nowadays, e-commerce and online purchasing have already gained traction. They should be subject to regulation by the administration. The administration should work more closely with the GBA in order to expand the local market for the manufacturing industry. I speak in support of the bill, and I also hope that the government will put more resources, be they public education, industrial collaboration, and funding, to drive innovation in order to provide all-round support for the industry. Thank you, Deputy President. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you, Deputy President. I speak in support of the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products, Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2025, or the bill for short. This will allow the government to implement PRS through legislation to regulate the recycling arrangements and responsibilities of different stakeholders. There will also be a license control mechanism to ban the disposal of vehicle tire waste at designated waste disposal facilities. In 2008, there were already relevant regulations and schemes covering regulated electrical and electronic equipment as well as glass beverage containers. Under the PERO, subsidiary legislation was formulated. The new PRS under the bill uses a market-led approach to list the supplier of products in a clear manner. Common elements and responsibilities will also be set out clearly. Say the registration of products, the responsibilities of retailers, and so on. These elements apply to the products listed under the schedule in the bill. The administration will not have to restate all these elements once again whenever there is a new PRS. This will enhance efficiency of legislation. For product to become end-of-life product, retailers and consumers have responsibility as well. Therefore, I speak in support of the bill. I support using the principle of polluter pays and the concept of equal responsibilities. The market-led approach will be used. Market forces will be leveraged to promote the development of a circular economy. This will ease the pressure on the government. During the scrutiny of the bill, I was aware that the administration would use negative vetting. In November 2023, we held a meeting in the council, and the approach was different from what we discussed, that is positive vetting. We need to consider the operability and the reasonableness of the bill. I support the bill, but then when it comes to the regulation and the way the bill is scrutinized, I have reservations. On the operational front, will the council have sufficient time to scrutinize the details before the enactment of the ordinance? A lot of people are worried there would be penalty if they fail to meet the recovery targets. They are also worried about future consequences. I'm glad that the administration has taken on board our views and has heard the sector. Subsidiary legislation will be scrutinized by way of positive vetting. This approach should be recognized. Plastic beverage containers, beverage cartons, vehicle tires, electric vehicle batteries, these are the regulated products that will be covered under subsidiary legislation soon. Using positive vetting will allay the concerns of different stakeholders, but I'd like to point out upon the passage of the ordinance, the administration should give a sufficient adaptation period for the industry to get fully prepared before they should discharge their responsibilities. In relation to the link between operators and the manufacturers, I request the administration to prepare a flowchart to better illustrate the link. Especially when the recovery targets are met, then it is whose responsibility, or when a contract is ended, What about these cases? I hope that the administration will explain clearly to the sector later on. There will be different recovery targets set. Plastic beverage containers and beverage cartons will be the first regulated products to be covered under the PRS. There will be a total of 4 stages. Stage 1, recovery target, 30% plastic bottle and 10% beverage cartons. But then there are green groups holding the view that the set recovery targets aren't aggressive enough. Some suppliers believe it is quite difficult to achieve these targets at the same time. Well, I believe the Stage 1 targets are on the low side, but I believe this is a good start. We need to adopt an incremental approach, and this is a stable method to take forward the PRS. I hope the administration will take stock of the situation from time to time in order to ensure a good recovery target. As for soybean milk and herbal tea, the volume of sales won't be significant as large-scale retailers. Under the existing scheme, or under the scheme in the bill, these will be exempted, and I believe this will reduce the compliance costs of shops smaller in scale. This is a good approach. Take glass beverage containers as an example. Buyers only need to pay $1 when they buy the products, and when they return the product, or when they return the glass container, then they can get a rebate of $1. This is a good way to develop habits. I suggested the two-pronged approach of a rebate and deposit. The government said that using a rebate method is more in line with the operational model in Hong Kong. It is also more in line with local circumstances. I agree. Plastic containers are only confined to plastic beverage containers. Shampoo containers, oil containers, they aren't covered under the PRS. Members of the public need to go to the greener community to recycle these containers. For hydrogen fuel cell batteries, there are further new waste that needs to be disposed of. I hope that the administration will further expand the PRS to these said products. I support the bill, and I also speak in support of the amendments to be moved by the administration. Thank you.
Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, Deputy President. This is the Promotion of Recycling and Proper Disposal of Products Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2025. Before I speak on the bill, I declare that I have relatives that engage in the relevant businesses. In 2023, the government rolled out the idea of Producer Responsibility Scheme. In the same year, in November, the framework was produced to the panel on environmental affairs. And after taking on board the views, the government altered the government-led approach to market-led approach. Last May, the government suspended the municipal waste charging scheme, and we have been facing various challenges in terms of protecting our environment. While we have been facing so many obstacles, I'm glad that we are finally seeing this bill. This bill is modeled on the idea of polluters pay as well as eco-responsibility. It asks the producers to share the responsibility with relevant stakeholders. This bill seeks to provide for a common legislative framework for different PRSs, and it covers recovery targets, the requirement for stakeholders to submit producer responsibility plans for individual regulated products such as plastic beverage containers, beverage cartons, EV batteries and vehicle tires, and lead-acid batteries. The details for the individual PRSs will be set out in the future subsidiary legislations. I think it is crucial for us to define the terms under the bill. For example, recycling means to recollect, and repurpose means to change the purpose of products. The aim is to ensure that Schedule 12 products will be handled properly instead of being sent to landfills. As a member of the Bills Committee, I'd like to take this opportunity to raise 3 suggestions. First, we must enhance the level of convenience for recycling. On the 30th of April this year, I raised a written question in this council. In 2024, the government intended to amend Cap 354 to ask the property management sector to recycle products and pass on the recyclables to downstream sector. However, the relevant proposal has not been submitted to this council. The amendment bill this time covers Cap 354, but there's no mention of the above proposal. Some reflected that the easiest way is to have property management companies help collect the recyclables. And the Hong Kong Beverage Association also said that the success of this scheme really depends on the recycling habits of the public. So there are views that it is crucial to have the collaboration and cooperation of the property management sector. There are some non-binding charters. While we have 850 private residential buildings that have joined the charter, however, there is no stipulation that buildings have to set up recycling points. For example, for beverage containers that can be recycled, people can get a 10-cent rebate. However, some struggle between getting a rebate or ensuring convenience when they recycle the regulated product waste. For scheme operators and suppliers under the bill, they have to meet the recovery targets, otherwise they'll have to pay a cost. While the details will be set out in the future subsidiary legislations, the administration said it intends to adopt an incremental approach. It will set a recovery target for plastic beverage containers at 30% and beverage cartons at 10%. So it will really look at the recycling quantities to decide whether the recovery targets have been met. That means scheme operators as well as suppliers may have to buy recyclables from the property management sector. Will that increase the costs of suppliers? While the recovery targets are met, will the recyclables collected by the management property sector be properly handled? I hope that the administration can ensure that there will be a smooth recycling chain to ensure that the property management sector can be part of the chain and that it can help enhance recycling convenience. Second, I think we have to expand the return point network. According to the bill, unless there are return points established, retailers cannot set up points for Schedule 12 products. And these retailers are those that have a considerable size of operation. Originally, the government proposed that this requirement will apply to retailers with a physical point of business of 200 square meters, but now it is changed to 400 square meters. During the scrutiny of the bill, we raised 2 major concerns. The greater the size of the retail points, the smaller the coverage of return points will be. If we stick to the requirements of 200 and 400 square meters, the return points will be 600 and 400 respectively. That means if we enhance the requirements to 400 square meters, the return points will reduce by 200. We don't want retailers to evade the responsibility. If we look at Singapore, the size requirement is 65% of our requirement. If the retail point size is set at 200 square meters, there will be 1,000 return points. That's the case in Singapore. So I think that when the government set the area of retail outlets, it has to take into consideration the population size. Also, it should consider providing space for collecting recyclables in government premises. There could also be return points in shopping malls as well as at MTR stations to enhance convenience for the public. In principle, the more the return points, the merrier. Over the past 6 years, Green at Community cost $500 million of public money, and the government subsidized 12 recycling stations and 82 recycling stores. Future scheme operators may have to buy recyclables from Green at Community operators. Also, if scheme operators compete with Green at Community operators, the administration will have to address the issue. The government should think about whether offering subsidies to the recycling of products that are out of the scope of Schedule 12. Lastly, I think there should be enough communication between the administration and the relevant stakeholders. The bill hasn't set out the timetable and the period or the length of the adaptation period. The government shows that it is determined to adopt the incremental approach. And based on the Bills Committee members' views, the government will propose amendments to, for example, alter the vetting procedure from negative vetting to positive vetting. This shows that the administration has had enough communication with stakeholders. However, we still don't know how to calculate the recovery targets, how many vending machines there should be, and how auditing should be carried out to make sure that the recovery targets are met. Also, should we make use of technology to reduce manpower needs? I think when we make subsidiary legislations, the administration should ensure that it communicates with the stakeholders so that we can have everyone take part in the recycling procedure to ensure that there is a community-wide recycling scheme. I so submit. I support the bill. Thank you. Mr. Kwok Wai-Kirk. Thank you, Deputy President. I speak on behalf of FTU on the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2025. I speak in support of the bill. The purpose of the bill is to establish a common legislative framework that covers different types of regulated products. It is also to amend CAP 603 and CAP 354 to enhance legislative efficiency and ensure consistency of law enforcement. The bill will help enhance recycling efficiency and reduce the pressure of landfills. It will also create opportunities for the local recycling sector. This will have huge implications on the recycling prospects in Hong Kong. I am a member of the Bills Committee. I think recycling is an international trend. Hong Kong should keep pace with the times, and we should try to reduce waste at source. This bill reflects a huge change. We see a shift from a government-led approach to a market-led approach. Back in 2013, I took part in a duty visit of LegCo to South Korea. I was very impressed with their potato chip plastic bag scheme. I noticed that it was a lot more efficient to have producers recycle the plastic bag waste. In the past, we had the government-led approach, and we did not achieve a 100% recovery target, and we underestimated the recovery cost. Take glass beverage containers as an example. It levies a recycling charge of $1, and it only covers transportation cost and recovery cost. Well, but we need government officials to help monitor the scheme. We also need land for recyclers. For example, we have to offer concessions to Eco Park, and we have to offer concessionary rate of rent to sustain the operation. So it is most effective to hand this back to the market. Under this model, the government only needs to come up with a recovery target. Other stakeholders, including importers, suppliers, and retailers, they have to shoulder the responsibility as well. We see that there will be greater circulation of recycling materials in the market. The producer responsibility scheme is closely related to our daily lives, and the recyclables also have a lot to do with our daily lives. I think we have to adopt a pragmatic approach. We have to take into account the feasibility and acceptability of the community. We have to review the enforcement of the scheme to ensure the overall recycling effectiveness. The government should conduct some forward-looking studies. While it's hard for us to have an estimate of how many recyclables we will get, the government should adopt a scientific approach to estimate, for example, the capacity of our recycling system and the affordability of our infrastructure. There should be KPIs to ensure the effectiveness of the scheme. Holidays as well as festive seasons may be high season for the recycling business. There should be enough resilience and flexibility of the recycling chain. In terms of recycling facilities as well as spatial planning, we think that the government should take into consideration the recycling costs. For in situ recycling and heat handling, for example, we have the IPARC 1 and IPARC 2. We have to think about the needs of these infrastructures. We have to ensure that there is a certain level of waste that are burned and handled in these facilities to sustain the operation. According to the Trade Development Council, in 2022, the value, our local recycling industry is valued at $10.9 billion, which accounts for 0.4% of our GDP, and it offers jobs to 43,000 people. Therefore, the FTU promotes the recycling businesses so that we can create more jobs. We should not export our waste to other places. As at August 2024, the INT Fund has approved 260 environmental tech-related projects. We're talking about $629 million of funds. This shows that there is great potential in our green transformation sector. So we have to make use of AI as well as other technologies. We can draw reference from the model in Germany in terms of how they make use of construction materials. We should turn waste into high value added materials. For example, environmentally friendly tiles and reusable plastic particles. This will help promote the development of INT and at the same time boost local productivity. This will also ensure job opportunities at the grassroots level. We can see a win-win situation. Throughout the legislative process, the government has to step up publicity, and I commend the government's work in this regard. I talked to some representatives of the beverage sector. We know that the sector has positive feedback on this scheme. However, a small number of suppliers have concerns about the compliance costs on small-scale suppliers. We hope that the government can, based on the actual operation, adjust the schemes. There should be a stick and carrot approach. The government should come up with dedicated digital platforms as well as briefing sessions to offer support to the operators so that they can see a smooth transition to the future PRSs. We want to offer support to the sector so that they can cope with the challenges. The bill offers a solid legal basis for the future PRSs. It will create synergy, and this will ensure the public can help promote recycling with the administration. We hope that the vision of the administration can be materialized so that we can ensure green transformation. However, costs will be incurred as we recycle the regulated products. The government should implement the polluters pay principle so that public money will not be used to shoulder all the costs. To ensure a smooth implementation of the policy, we need the concerted efforts of all the sectors so that we can ensure green development that is commensurate with the local circumstances. Thank you.
Dr. Loy Kwok. Deputy President, I support promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products miscellaneous amendments Bill 2025. The bill seeks to amend Cap 603 Producer Responsibility Scheme and also Cap 354 Waste Disposal Ordinance, as well as the subsidiary legislation of these two ordinances to further improve the legislative framework for the promotion of the development of sustainable economy. With population growth and change in consumption patterns, Deputy President, there is a dire problem regarding municipal solid waste in Hong Kong. The producer responsibility schemes form the core policy tool on treatment of waste, building on the major principles of polluters pay, as well as cost recovery. Suppliers, importers, retailers, and consumers must share the responsibility of managing waste. In July 2008, the relevant legislation was enacted in relation to plastic shopping bags, waste, electrical and electronic appliances, as well as glass beverage containers. However, separate legislation was required to introduce the implementation details of producer responsibility schemes as mentioned. In order to expedite the progress, the Chief Executive proposed in the 2023-24 policy address that a common legislative framework should be formulated to provide for various producer responsibility schemes and that in relation to plastic beverage containers, beverage cartons, electric vehicle batteries, vehicle tires, as well as lead-acid batteries, the relevant producer responsibility schemes can be enacted through subsidiary legislation. The bill covers various aspects. The first is to draw up a common legislative framework for the various items mentioned and the schemes. The framework provides for basic operation as well as the responsibilities for stakeholders such as suppliers and retailers. Products are set out in Schedule 2 of 603. These are regulated products, and the Secretary for Ecology, Environment and Ecology may, by publishing a notice in Gazette, amend this schedule. Implementation details will be set out in the future by way of subsidiary legislation so as to introduce new schemes. What is important is that the market-led approach will be taken for implementing new PRSs. That means suppliers and scheme operators will need to engage relevant contractors and set recovery targets. A flexible approach is taken. They may either take up this work themselves or engage registered scheme operators to complete the recovery work for them so as to meet the target. It is hoped that through introducing this arrangement, we can promote market competition. It will also be more cost-effective. The scheme operators will need to submit the plan to the EPD and also submit audit reports. For failure to meet recovery targets or non-compliance with the relevant legislation, a maximum fine at level 5, that's $50,000 or level 6 or $100,000 will be meted out respectively. The bill also sets out the relevant offenses and penalties. The bill also fine-tunes the plastic shopping bag PRS. That is, the Director of Environmental Protection may issue fixed penalty notices, and that electronic payment of fine will be allowed. This is in line with the government's initiative in developing a digital government. This will also facilitate the trade. The bill also enhances the regulation on collection, recovery, import, and export of waste. Licensing control system will be put in place, and there was also a permit system for the import and export of liquid carton waste and vehicle tire waste to ensure that waste will be properly recycled at the place of import and that we can avoid loading up the landfills. Now, Deputy President, I'm happy to learn that the government has taken on board the views of the Bills Committee expressed during the deliberation process, and that the Secretary will be moving some key amendments, one of which is to change the proposed negative vetting process to positive vetting ones. According to members, the implementation details in subsidiary legislation may entail very complex operational issues. If negative vetting is adopted, there may not be sufficient time for the Legislative Council to consider very carefully the government's proposal. By changing the vetting process to a positive one, the Legislative Council will be in a bit better position to scrutinize the implementation details. The second amendment involves deleting the responsibility for retailers to identify non-compliant products. For example, Section 132(3)(a) will be amended. Well, the provision relates to prohibiting retailers from distributing the products which are not registered. This will pose a major burden on SMEs retailers. The government has agreed to delete this provision so as to strike a proper balance between meeting regulatory purposes and facilitating operators. The third amendment relates to changing the definition of pure electric vehicles, and that it will be changed to a vehicle that is propelled by electric power and does not emit any exhaust gas. This will better reflect the original intent of the bill. I support the bill as well as the approach of a common legislative framework. This will enhance legislative efficiency. The market-led approach will also invigorate the recycling industry and encourage investment in waste management in Hong Kong. This will quicken our pace in developing the circular economy. But I also have a number of suggestions. First, there should be more support for the industries and more time for the industries to adapt to the change. That means clear codes and practice guidelines should be introduced. Suitable transitional arrangements should be put in place so that industries, especially SMEs, are well versed about their legal obligations. The government should focus on publicity and public education first before taking enforcement action. More support should be given to educate the industry. If rigorous enforcement action is taken at the teething stage, there might be misunderstandings in the community. The government should step up public education and provide training for the industries. For operators inadvertently breaching the law, warnings or advice should be given instead of metering out penalties right away. I believe non-compliant cases will drop after the transitional period. My third suggestion is that technology should be better harnessed to promote the circular economy and sustainable development. This bill covers 5 types of regulated products. For other products that are heavily polluting in nature, they should also be incorporated. The government should collaborate with the I&T sector to enhance the efforts in recycling. I support the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2025, as well as the amendments to be moved by the Secretary for Environment and Ecology. Mr. Benson Loh. Deputy President, I speak in support of the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2025. I'm also going to support all the amendments. I'm a member of this Bills Committee. I took part in the deliberation of the bill. This bill is drawn up on users pay principle and the concept of eco-responsibility. Stakeholders are required to share the responsibility for the collection, recycling, treatment, and disposal of end-of-life products. Now, I believe this will help implement the producer responsibility schemes, raise public awareness on recycling, and alleviate the burden on landfills, as well as promoting the development of recycling industry in Hong Kong. The government will introduce PRSs with a market-led approach. That means the government will not charge a levy. The government will not directly engage service providers to take up recycling work either. Recovery targets will be set, and suppliers will need to meet the recovery targets through engaging registered scheme operators or taking up the work on their own so as to fulfill this responsibility of meeting statutory recovery targets. In the deliberation process, some stakeholders met with my party, the BPA, to express concerns. For example, they're concerned whether other products not registered coming into Hong Kong will flood the market, and also whether this will impose a heavy burden on suppliers. From the C&I sector's perspective, the market-led approach does spark concerns. For example, engaging independent auditors to commit annual audits. That means extra administrative costs and fees for the auditors. The sector is concerned whether this will pose a greater financial burden on registered suppliers. whether this will eventually hamper the business environment in Hong Kong. I really appreciate the government's efforts in fully communicating with the Bills Committee. The government has undertaken to keep in close liaison with the sector so as to discuss operational details about the future PRSs, so as to lower compliance costs for the sector. And there will also be ample time for the sector to be prepared and to adapt to the change. The government has also undertaken that clear practice guidelines and enforcement guidelines will be introduced. There will also be strengthened publicity and public education for stakeholders to learn more about the statutory requirements so as to meet the policy objective of raising the rate of waste recovery. I so submit, I support the bill and the amendments.
Ms. Lillian Kwok. Thank you, Deputy President. I'm a member of the Bills Committee. I speak in support of the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products, Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2025. We need to promote the sustainable development of our city. This is our shared responsibility. But the landfills in Hong Kong are under great pressure. There's a lot of municipal waste disposed of in Hong Kong. Despite the Green at Community plan, the recycling rate is still on the low side. We have the PERO as well as the Waste Disposal Ordinance. The responsibilities are spread out across different ordinances. Under this bill, different PRS are covered under one single ordinance and provides a common legislative framework. This sets out the shared responsibility of different stakeholders, say consumers, manufacturers, importers, retailers, or wholesalers. This bill plays a very important role in our efforts to promote sustainable development. This will also promote a circular economy to cut waste and to encourage recycling in Hong Kong. I thank the government for taking on board the views of members. The Secretary, we have already changed the approach from negative vetting to positive vetting. This will allow the Council to fully scrutinize the relevant subsidiary legislation. This will also allow ample time for the government to tap the pulse of stakeholders as well as the industry concerned. During the Bills Committee scrutiny, the administration said that they would cautiously implement the PRS in order not to cause pressure on different stakeholders. There would be pressure in relation to increasing costs. Therefore, the government needs to fully consult stakeholders. There should be enough time given to stores as well as stores at smaller scale. Sufficient adaptation period should be given to stores in order that they can meet the latest green policies as soon as possible. We have the Waste-Free Bay Task Group. It is aimed at establishing a mechanism in relation to solid waste management and resource recycling. The administration provided a written reply to a written question of member on the 2nd of July. Discussion has already started. The two places are working on taking forward coordination and laws and rules interfacing. I believe we can quicken our pace of collaboration with the mainland. For instance, plastics and recyclables obtained through the PRS could be sent to the mainland for further handling. This will not only reduce our handling costs, and this will also facilitate collaboration and exchange between the two places. There are tripartite meetings between Hong Kong and the mainland covering different stakeholders, the recyclers, as well as recycling organizations and government departments. Jerseys, clothes, or high-quality clothes are involved. This should reduce the cost of recycling, and this will also, at the same time, promote the manufacture of high-quality products. This will enhance our capability when it comes to turning recyclables into high-quality products. We may draw reference from the advanced recycling technologies and managerial experience of the mainland. This way, we can enhance our level of recycling in Hong Kong as well. Schools are very important platforms. Schools should encourage students to take part in cutting waste on campus. Say drinking fountains should be installed on each floor of schools. Hand dryers should be installed in order to reduce paper. Schools should also cultivate students' habits to bring their own bottles. Bottled water shouldn't be sold at school. We need to let members of the public feel that it is actually quite convenient to take part in recycling. In public places, there should be more recycling boxes in order to make it convenient for members of the public to recycle their own products. At the same time, exhibitions or foam boards should be set up in order to enhance public awareness and to allow members of the public to acquire more knowledge about this. This will further help members of the public to develop their own products. And I have to emphasize, a waste-free city doesn't mean a city where there's no municipal solid waste. It doesn't mean fully using municipal waste either. It is an advanced city management concept. We aim to minimize the amount of municipal solid waste created. It requires the concerted efforts of all members of the public. We need to leverage on different efforts, say laws and regulations, members of the public, and regional collaboration. This is exactly how we can turn Hong Kong into a waste-free city. In the end, we will become part of the waste-free GBA. Thank you. Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Deputy President. Earlier on, there were PRS on plastic beverage containers and beverage cartons. We have seen results when it comes to cutting waste. Population is increasing, our city is developing, there's more and more waste. The role of recycling is key to turning Hong Kong into a sustainable, developable city. We have the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2025. It is aimed to cover plastic beverage containers, beverage cartons, electric vehicle batteries, vehicle tires, and lead-acid batteries. It addresses the pressing demands for waste management. It also helps Hong Kong to turn waste into energy or products. I agree with the approach of having a common legislative framework. During the scrutiny of the bill, members and I urged the administration to maintain flexibility in order to cope with changes brought by future technological advances. There are composite materials. The framework should take into account the development trends of different new materials. The definition and terms should also be more forward-looking. Take vehicle tires as an example. Materials are limited to rubber and plastic, but in the future there may be new materials. That's why we need to be very cautious when it comes to the dictions of the words in the bill. Plastic is very common packaging material in daily life, but in the existing recycling network, there is no dedicated channel to handle this type of material. In the end, styrofoam can only be disposed of at landfills. This issue has been close to my heart. I hope styrofoam will be incorporated into the framework in order to plug the gap. PRS is expanded to plastic beverage containers and beverage cartons. When advocating a market-led approach, green groups and environmentalists are very much concerned about this. There lacks a concrete implementation plan. Now, we still fail to see any concrete policies to develop a circular economy. If we only focus on making laws and regulations without concrete implementation details, I'm afraid we will have to. I'm afraid that this won't yield good results, just like the municipal solid waste scheme. Cross-boundary consumption and online purchasing, these lead to waste as well. I request the administration to pay attention to these issues in order not to discount the efforts on the bill. Are rebates convenient? Are they direct? Will rebates incentivize consumers to engage in recycling? Under the bill, the amount of rebate as well as its method are mentioned. I believe we need to set out very clearly the relevant methods. The administration said that cash or things akin to cash would be used as rebates, but there are actually a lot of payment options in society. Shopping discounts, shopping points, they may be more helpful. These should be set out more clearly in legislation. Using rebates will not be enough to incentivize consumers. We need to make sure when members of the public get rebates, they can really use the rebates. Green policies are very difficult to be implemented, despite our intentions. There should be clear implementation details, and only then can we drive consumers and stakeholders to implement the policy. I support the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products, Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2025. Thank you.
Mr. Frankie Yik, Deputy President. In 2035 blueprint, the government set out targets and visions on reducing waste at source as well as recycling resources. The purpose of this bill is to set up PRSs for 5 regulated products. They are plastic beverage containers, beverage cartons, EV batteries, vehicle tires, and lead-acid batteries. This bill provides for a common legislative framework for these regulated products waste. This is to promote recycling so that we can achieve the target of zero landfill. We support this bill. Currently, glass beverage containers as well as shopping bags have already been covered under the existing PRSs. If we have to come up with a set of laws for each future PRSs, it will be very time-consuming. So this bill will allow us to come up with subsidiary legislation legislation that covers all the 5 future PRSs. The bill abides by the polluter pays principle as eco-responsibility concept. In future, suppliers will have to have their products registered with the government. They have to submit responsibility producer plans to come up with the recovery targets. If they fail to meet the recovery targets, suppliers will have to pay a fee to make up for the shortfall as well as the impacts on the environment. Our party finds this mechanism feasible. Regardless of the brands, we can, through this mechanism, recycle beverage containers and beverage cartons. We think that the statutory recovery targets is not high. The target for plastic beverage container and beverage cartons is 30% and 10% respectively. It covers supermarkets, convenience stores, as well as reverse vending machines and green community. We believe suppliers will be able to fulfill the target easily with these stakeholders and operators. For vehicle tires as well as EV batteries, there are divergent views on the future PRSs for these products. We will see more vehicles in Hong Kong and therefore an increase of retired vehicle tires. According to statistics, every year we see a rise of vehicle tires. From 2021, we had 27,000 tons, and in 2023, the number reached 28,000 tons. In 2023, about 14,000 tons of the retired tires were sent to the landfills. This added to the burden of landfills and also was harmful to the environment. Vehicle tires first need to be processed before they are sent to landfills, and it takes decades for them to decompose, and this pollutes the environment. So I urge the government to come up with a comprehensive recycling policy for vehicle tires. Apart from sending tires to landfills, there are also retired tires that were sent overseas. After the implementation of the Basel Convention, different countries have tightened their policies on recycling vehicle tires, and therefore we stop exporting vehicle tires overseas. In future, vehicle tires will not be able to be disposed of in landfills. And also, we have to ensure that importers will recycle the tires before they're allowed to be brought to Hong Kong. So there is a pressing need for us to recycle vehicle tires. Currently, in the market, the highest processing capacity is about 25,000 tons for vehicle tires. However, we're producing 28,000 some tons of vehicle tires, so there is a gap to be filled. Before we implement the PRS for vehicle tires, we must ensure there are enough recycling capacity for vehicle tires on the market. According to the relevant sector, the greatest obstacle they face is land supply. We need large-scale facilities for handling retired tires, for example, processing factories. However, we have limited land resources in Hong Kong, especially for the recycling sector that see high recovery costs and low profit. Recycling this kind of waste is a huge challenge. The Liberal Party hopes the government will roll out concessionary measures to help the recycling sector. It should help build recycling facilities. It should roll out rent subsidies to lower the cost for the sector. Also, the sector should work with the government to come up with a long-term land planning policy to ensure that we can develop the circular economy. As for EV batteries, we are seeing more EVs in Hong Kong, and so there is a pressing need to recycle EV batteries. Disposing of these batteries randomly will cause environmental pollution as well as safety problems. Back in 2018, I already called for the recycling of EV batteries when I tried to promote the popularization of EVs. Many countries require EV exporters or importers to roll out a clear proposal to handle EV batteries. In Germany, there is a clear recycling mechanism which is governed by the Battery Act. And producers and manufacturers must register with the government and tell the government how they will dispose of the EV batteries to lower the environmental hazards. In Hong Kong, we lack a proposal. We need the sector to come up with a feasible proposal with the administration. Retired EV batteries, while they are no longer suitable to be used in vehicles, they still have the capacity to store electricity. Mainland as well as Japanese enterprises promote the idea of transforming EV batteries into reusable batteries. Also, there are many precious metals such as lithium in EV batteries. They can be reprocessed to become new batteries for industrial purpose, so they have high value of recycling. We should help EV manufacturers set up a recycling network to ensure that retired EV batteries can be effectively recycled so that they can be reused. The Waste Development Blueprint 2035 provides a clear direction for us to manage waste. The implementation of future PRSs helps us achieve the goal in the blueprint. Before we see the implementation of the future PRSs, we hope the government can talk to the relevant sectors on the operational details of the future schemes to ensure the schemes will be financially viable. I so submit I speak in support of the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2025. I hope the bill will be passed. Thank you. Mr. Peter Xu. Thank you, Deputy President. Today we're here to discuss the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2025. The EEB over the years has been working hard. It hopes that waste in Hong Kong can be properly reused. This is also to lower the usage of landfills in Hong Kong. It has rolled out several schemes. For example, the producer responsibility scheme for glass beverage containers. Now, it proposes to extend the scheme to other regulated products, such as plastic beverage containers, beverage cartons, EV batteries, and vehicle tires. During the deliberation of the Bills Committee, we talked about the recycling of plastic beverage containers and beverage cartons. I am a member of the Bills Committee. I abide by the same position over the years. I support this kind of schemes. However, we cannot forget about money. Now, the government's proposal is that manufacturers of plastic beverage containers and beverage cartons, in future they'll have to help recycle the products. Manufacturers have the option to provide rebates to citizens who help to recover or return the products. So basically, people who help collect or recycle these products, they'll get a rebate. Now we have reverse vending machines to collect these product waste. We also have recycling facilities at housing estates to help collect the waste-regulated products. In future, outsourced contractors help recycle and collect the products as well. So where will the money come from? Suppliers of these products will definitely pass on the additional cost to consumers. So we have to be mentally prepared. While we strive to protect our environment, we have to shoulder the cost incurred. Now we have to ensure that future contractors and scheme operators will be able to effectively recycle and recover the regulated products waste. We've talked about this. We have to ensure that the products collected are from Hong Kong. If they are from overseas, that really defeats the purpose. I know that there are machines that help identify where the products are from Hong Kong. However, if the products are not collected through machines, if they are collected manually at, for example, housing estates, then I think government officials will have to conduct site inspection to ensure that regulated products recycled meet the requirements. We don't want people that try to scrape the barrel because it will run counter to the purpose of the scheme. Now, on the problem of recovery cost, as mentioned, citizens in Hong Kong will have to shoulder the cost. Scheme operators will help coordinate and recover the waste-regulated products, and it will cost at least dozens of cents. Well, in the past, I will say let's shoulder the cost. However, online shopping, cross-boundary shopping have been very popular nowadays. And products from overseas have been entering Hong Kong. Of course, food products cannot be imported to Hong Kong, but beverage containers, they can. If these products get into the local market, we'll have to think about how we deal with them. Now, there will also be situations where retailers will face more fierce competition. As mentioned, for each plastic beverage container or beverage carton, there will be additional costs incurred if they are to be recycled. In future, I think there will be a greater gap between locally sold products as well as products from overseas. I'm worried that local products will not be competitive enough. However, I've talked to the beverage sector, and they are confident about the scheme. I hope they will ensure quality of their products to cope with the future challenges. Now, on the problem with retired vehicle tires and EV batteries, Mr. Frankie Yik has just talked about it. Mr. Frankie Yik and I will help the administration communicate with the relevant trades. Here, I would like to thank the EEB. Originally, the government proposed a negative vetting procedure for future subsidiary legislations because the PRSs will be expanded to other types of regulated products. This is the original idea of the administration. However, members of the Bills Committee are of the view that future subsidiary legislations will be complicated, and there should be enough discussions at this council before the subsidiary legislations are rolled out. So the Secretary decided to amend his proposal. Instead of having a negative vetting procedure, we will have a positive vetting procedure, and I'm happy that the government has taken on board our views. We have been scrutinizing the tobacco control bill. There will be the duty stamp regime, as well as the plain packaging requirements. In future, there won't be flavored cigarettes in Hong Kong. There will be subsidiary legislations in future stipulating how certificates of compliance should be applied for. I proposed to the administration that there should be a positive vetting procedure for these future subsidiary legislations as well. However, I know that at this point, the Health Bureau is still insisting on the negative vetting procedure approach. So I'm happy that the EEB has taken on board our views. Thank you.
Dr. So Chang-Ming. Thank you, Deputy President. I speak in support of the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products miscellaneous amendments Bill 2025. The object of the bill is to enact a proper framework for waste disposal in Hong Kong and formulate strategies in relation to green transformation. There will be a further implementation of the polluter pays principle. A common legislative framework will be formulated to implement various producer responsibility schemes. More products will be incorporated under this framework, including plastic beverage containers, beverage cartons, electric vehicle batteries, vehicle tires, and lead-acid batteries. Through introducing a systemic management or regulatory mechanism, the government can manage waste in a more comprehensive manner. With this framework in place, we can give play to the policy direction of environmental protection and reducing waste. The government has been making rigorous efforts in waste reduction. For example, there is now a drop in terms of the per capita municipal waste by volume. In fact, in 2024, the daily volume of municipal solid waste generated has dropped for three consecutive years, down by 7.5% compared to 2021. It's now standing at 1 million tons, but it's still on the high side and a far cry from zero waste policy objective. According to the government, with green and community stations and recycling networks at the community level, results have been seen. But we need to better engage the community. Some sectors have yet to implement waste management. There is a lack of experience in the management of waste and technical know-how. These are constraints to further promoting the circular economy. The government must therefore build the necessary ecosystem to promote recycling. The greatest merit of this bill is that a common legislative framework will be enacted, which will apply to different regulated products. In the future, producer responsibility schemes can be implemented through subsidiary legislation to enhance legislative efficiency. It also forms a solid foundation. A market-led approach will be taken. That means instead of imposing a levy, the government will only set statutory recovery targets. Manufacturers or contractors will boost recovery of recyclables through providing rebates, for example. Similar to the reverse vending machine pilot scheme, rebate will be offered, say, 10 cents per plastic beverage bottles. According to the pilot scheme, this has proven to be effective. In order to better implement the producer responsibility schemes, I have the following suggestions. The key to the success of its implementation hinges on full participation by the community. The municipal solid waste charging scheme flopped because members of the public were not prepared. Whereas recently we've seen results in the waste recovery rebate schemes and other incentives. The government should draw on this experience and continue to mount publicity. There should also be public education to enhance the public's awareness and incentivize them to participate in the process. My second suggestion is this: cross-border e-commerce will be left out of the scope of the bill. This will become a major loophole. My suggestion is to expand the definition of producers so that for any party selling products, regulated products directly to Hong Kong consumers, be it local or otherwise, must fulfill the relevant responsibilities on registration and etc. My other suggestion is to fine-tune the rebate mechanism. The 10 cents per plastic beverage bottle rebate may not be a sufficient incentive to boost waste recovery. In order to engage the wider public, the government should allow different levels of rebate to be offered depending on the types of products. Suppliers should be incentivized to provide more rebates. An e-platform should be set up to facilitate the public's participation. I so submit. Ms. Judy Chen. Thank you, Deputy President. Hong Kong people lead a fast-paced lifestyle, and it's costly to live in the city. So it's not easy at all to enact an effective system of waste collection and recycling. We all have a busy schedule. If we want to go green, we need to start with our everyday practices. And we need to make it easy so that people can build a habit and not find waste management a cumbersome process. More importantly, there should be clear policy directions and supporting measures. It is everybody's responsibility to protect the environment. We need the public's participation and cross-sectoral collaboration so as to create the driving force. The government has submitted this bill called the Promotion of Recycling and Proper Disposal of Products Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2025 in response to the issues I mentioned just now. I'm a member of the Bills Committee, so of course I give my full support to the passage of this bill. I think this bill is forward-looking, is also strategic. It will drive a specific reform. It represents an important step towards developing a circular economy in Hong Kong. I believe this bill will enhance further the recycling ecosystem in Hong Kong. There will be clear goals set. In recent years, there have been a greater public awareness on recycling, but the results do not meet our expectations. One of the problems is that there is not a clear delineation of responsibilities. Some citizens may find it inconvenient to take the waste to recycling points. Some shop operators do not receive sufficient incentives to join the scheme. So that affects the efficiency of waste recovery. Producer responsibility scheme is core to the bill. The bill requires suppliers to register for the scheme and to fulfill responsibilities. So they have the statutory duty to do so. The government will enact a framework. There will be clear delineation of roles and responsibilities. Flexibility is allowed for the industries to come up with innovative arrangements according to their own circumstances. So it's a collaborative approach. It is not a top-down order from the government. One important point in the bill is that consumers are now forming part of the system. Through the registered return points as well as a rebate arrangement, consumers will be involved as well. The action of waste recovery will be something of value. This will raise the awareness among the public. It will also help people cultivate a habit. And providing rebates will be a major incentive for them. And I also agree with the use of technology in the bill, for example, barcodes and also registration of products, prescribed logos, labels, etc. And there will also be digitized arrangements to boost the efficiency and effectiveness as well as transparency of the system. This should be combined to, say, the e-platforms or mobile apps, so that just by pressing on a button, you'll be able to receive the rebate, and this will enhance user experience. It will also help enhance data collection. This will help the government identify shortcomings and encourage wider community participation. I think the bill opens up endless possibilities. Shop operators, voluntary organizations, schools, etc. will also be able to take part in the process. They can set up returning points as well. And this is really inspirational. Instead of engaging a handful of major organizations at every corner of the community, we can truly implement recycling is everywhere. You don't need to find the collection points. This will greatly promote the network so that people will form the habit of recycling waste. In terms of monitoring, the bill provides a complete set of requirements on data collection, audit, and reports. The government can carefully scrutinize the efficiency of recycling instead of inspecting the work at random. With data available, the government will be able to make targeted decisions and address shortcomings. For example, if recycling is not effective enough for a particular type of regulated products or containers, we can then introduce remedial measures. I believe that this bill will unleash the potential of the market. It will also help attract more green techs to set up presence in Hong Kong. They can help research on high-tech recycling technologies, smart production, and developing reusable materials. So this is part of economic transformation. As I always say, environmental protection is something that will allow us to make breakthroughs and scale new heights. So it's not just about waste reduction, Secretary. This will help create jobs and enhance Hong Kong's competitiveness. I have high hopes for the bill. At the new stage, after the passage of the bill, the government should monitor the situation properly. And on top of that, the government should also explain the policy stance to the community so that we can all create the atmosphere of pro-recycling environment. On education, the government should do more to educate different age groups. At schools, we can teach children about separation of waste at source. In the community, we can introduce rebate arrangements to incentivize more members of the public to join us. This will create an atmosphere. This is not a technical bill about recycling, Secretary. This is a bill that relates to our culture, our institution, our technology, and the development of the green market. It will unleash our potential. It's not just about meeting targets. It is a bill that will help us create a long-term green future of Hong Kong.
Mr. Jeffrey Lam, thank you, Deputy President. I speak in support of the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products, Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2025. Environmental protection is the trend going forward. I believe different industries understand this and are willing to shoulder the responsibility. I go along with the overall direction of the PRS, but at the same time, I hope that the government will understand developing the economy and going green isn't mutually exclusive. We do need to strike a balance between these two initiatives. We shouldn't ignore the difficulties facing the local recycling industry. The bill requires retailers and suppliers to provide rebates, say at least 10 cents per plastic bottle. The aim is to encourage members of the public to recycle their products. This is good, but where does the money come from? The government has provided exemptions to stores in smaller scale, measuring less than 400 square meters. But small to medium retailers and wholesalers may be made to shoulder the costs. From recycling to operation to rebate, all these take money. The government said that they would take into account the market circumstances to make adjustments to the rebate policies. We hope that the government would consult the industry and stakeholders when preparing the individual product regulations. I hope that the government will hit the voice of SMEs in order that the rebate cost will not be too much for the industry. I'd like to speak on the green community. I urge that the administration should make sure the division of labor and work is clear. Under the market-led approach, if the scheme is successful, there should be regulations in relation to the green community in the handling of household waste in order that there won't be any duplication of resources. I'd like to talk about land now. We've been talking about a circular economy. The recycling industry in Hong Kong faces this problem. It is not the case that they don't want to provide recycling boxes, but then there is a lack of space. The recyclables may be exported outside Hong Kong. Materials will need to be hoarded in order that there would be a good price. But then we don't know how long we need to wait. The wait may be long. If that's the case, it may be difficult for recyclers to recycle materials. That's why I urge the administration to set aside some land in the North Metropolis for green industries. These pieces of land should be lent to suitable industries at a concessionary rent. We need to encourage people to turn waste into resources, or even turning waste into treasures. If these could be handled well, most of these could be recycled actually. We may be able to create job opportunities if these are handled locally. We shouldn't rely on export. Overall, I support the bill. However, a market-led approach doesn't mean that the administration plays no part. The administration needs to back up the industry. I hope that the administration will take it step by step to provide guidance to members of the public in the industry. It should remain in close liaison with stakeholders in the industry to make sure that the relevant policy is effective. Thank you. I so submit. Mr. Wang Kong. Thank you, Deputy President. I speak in support of the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2025. The bill seeks to make amendments to the PRS ordinance, which has been enacted for a long time. It was enacted in 2008. It's been close to 2 decades. We go green. It's very important to adopt a more aggressive and ambitious target. We aim to provide for a common legislative framework as well as operational mechanism. There will also be individual product regulations in order to make the framework or the mechanism flexible. The benefit is that we don't have to amend the relevant ordinance, that is the PERO, every time when we launch more PRS. We have drawn reference from the Product Lifecycle Responsibility Bill 2025. For Schedule 12 products, recyclers have different responsibilities according to different types of products. There are recycling, rebates, labels, logos. All these are set out under the bill. In relation to individual product regulations, say for the setup of return points, the Secretary has the power to make regulations. The administration has moved amendments taking into account proposals made by members. These amendments will have to be approved by the Legislative Council. Section 129, there's a regulation, and upon amendment, retailers don't have to log in to the administration's websites to verify the product. They can rely on a barcode or the logo. This will ease the inconvenience on the part of retailers. I believe the administration will continue to implement the PRS, focusing on life cycle of products as well as public education. I hope that the administration will conduct consultation and remain in liaison with stakeholders. The administration needs to take into account the market circumstances and stay flexible. There should be sufficient consultation and preparation before the launch of different PRS. Operators and manufacturers are required to submit annual audits. We need to enhance information traceability in order that the entire green system will be more scientific. Different countries aren't just after PRS. Quite a lot of jurisdictions have already put in place PRS 2.0, that is Extended Producer Responsibility Scheme. They not only take into account recycling, but they also care about the life cycle of the products, covering product design, packaging, disposal, as well as recycling. The focus is on the circular value chain. They want to extend the lifespan of the products. PRS 2.0 will also cover commercial mode as well as financial management or financial arrangements, so the producers will be responsible for the financial burden as well. Hong Kong is on the right track to going green. I hope the administration will seize the opportunity to earn support of members of the public. We need to leverage on market forces to turn Hong Kong into a circular economy so that we will be placed at the forefront when it comes to going green. I thank the administration for their efforts and interactive exchanges with members of the Bills Committee. This highlights the determination of the administration. Thank you.
Mr. Michael Lee. Thank you, President. I speak in support of the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2025. Nowadays, waste reduction and carbon emission reduction is a major trend. It is also in line with the national policy. The current term government has been working hard on reducing waste to build a green culture. Through different policies, the government adopt a multi-pronged approach to reduce waste and step up recycling. The goal is to have zero landfill and carbon neutrality. This year, the government earmarked $200 million for food waste recycling. There are over 800 recycling points under the Green Ed Community Scheme. It recycles 9 types of household products, including paper, metal, plastic, as well as glass beverage containers. There are 20 hectares of land dedicated for recycling at Eco Park. In 2021, the government earmarked an additional $1 billion, and the scheme is extended to 2027. We also have the Waste Blueprint for Hong Kong 2035. The goal is to have community-wide recycling and zero landfill. Producer Responsibility Scheme is one of our major waste management strategies. Establishing a common legislative framework under the PRS can help enhance legislative efficiency for enacting future PRSs. Operators that intend to provide recycling businesses can, based on their own considerations, join the market. The market-led approach can help boost efficiency. In the long run, this can help bring about new growth points for our economy. We can also create new industries because of this. The Eco Park in Tuen Mun and the first recycling facility for retired EV batteries and a pulping facility will be in service. With this common legislative framework, we can see timely implementation of future PRSs. The PRS will be extended to other types of products. This can help enhance the environmental awareness of consumers. While we have to be responsible for the product life cycle for the regulated products, we can also educate the public on the environmental impact of the regulated product waste. By changing consumers' behavior, we can promote the recycling of regulated products and build a green culture. The amendment bill will help us make a big stride towards going green, so I support the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2025 and the amendments to be moved by the Secretary. I so submit. Thank you. Dr. Sari Lee. President, I speak in support of the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2025. This provides for a common legislative framework for the producer responsibility schemes. In 2018, we passed the Product Responsibility Ordinance. And under the ordinance, we govern the recycling of plastic shopping bags, glass beverage containers, and the regulated electrical and electronic waste. This amendment bill marks an important milestone because we are establishing a common legislative framework for the future PRSs. This also provides for a general operational mechanism for the future schemes. So in future, the community and the administration will work together to promote recycling. We are taking a step in the right direction. However, we do need the concerted effort of all sectors in Hong Kong in order to make sure that we will see success. We all understand the importance of recycling, especially with extreme weather. We need to work hard to protect our environment. Our president also places emphasis on going green. Our country has put in a lot of effort, including money and manpower, to build a sustainable environment, and we have made a lot of contribution in this regard. My observation is that we've had discussion about the Green at Community scheme as well as the waste charging scheme. And we have a greater sense or awareness to protect our environment now. However, we have to continue to work hard. We need incentives. The Green at Community can continue to be put in place to offer people incentives. And the Secretary has taken on board our views. That's why we have the rebate scheme. However, at the same time, we need to put in place penalties. With just incentives and not penalties, people may slack under the scheme. I'm concerned about the stress to be faced by the manufacturers. We're seeing changes in the business environment, and the government is under stress with its financial position. So we need to support manufacturers so that they can fulfill the goals and obligations under the scheme. And at the same time, we have to offer our understanding. I think we are facing huge challenges in terms of recycling. We have to make use of the Greater Bay. We have to promote a zero-waste Greater Bay. As mentioned by Mr. Jeffrey Lam, a lot of manufacturers would like to promote recycling too, but they have limited resources. In order to get things right, we need a series of policy initiatives. While we promote recycling in Hong Kong, we also can make use of the resources in the Greater Bay Area. I went to the western part of Guangzhou for a duty visit. I think Jiangmen is a place we can explore. They have vast land resources. They also had the history in cooperating with Hong Kong. We can perhaps look for a site there for green recycling. We can have a recycling park there. We should not just look at the increasing cost behind promoting recycling because this is an irreversible trend. Instead, we have to seize the business opportunities behind. And in order to do so, we need policy support. We can work with enterprises in the Greater Bay Area to create business opportunities. We can have I&T elements incorporated under our schemes. I hope the Secretary will continue to work hard. I know that the Secretary has been studying the relevant ideas, but there's no announcement of relevant details yet. So I hope the Secretary will keep up with the effort so that we can build a Zero Waste Greater Bay Area. Lastly, in order to ensure a smooth implementation of the scheme, we need to continue to consult the relevant trades. I know that upon the passage of the bill, the government will continue to talk to the sector to sort out the relevant details of the scheme. I support this idea. I also hope the government will do more on public education. While we see greater awareness among the public in terms of promoting recycling, we have to keep up with the effort. A lot more products will be covered under the future PRSs, including EV batteries and vehicle tires. So we'll have to flesh out the details for the future schemes. I'm glad that the downstream recycling facilities will be ready soon, and this will offer more support to suppliers and manufacturers to implement the scheme. I hope the regulated products will offer us business opportunities as we strive to develop the circular economy. I support this bill. I hope this bill will inject greater impetus to the green industry. I hope the government will continue to talk to the sector and step up public education. I hope it will, based on the actual circumstances, work out the details with the sector so that together we can build a zero waste Bay Area. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I now call upon the Secretary for Environment and Ecology to reply, then the debate will come to a close. Secretary. President, today, the Promotion of Recycling and Proper Disposal of Products Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2025 receives its the resumption of the second reading here. I thank Chair of the Bills Committee, Mr. Edward Lau, for his leadership, and other members of the Bills Committee for their support, as well as the Secretariat for the hard work so as to complete the scrutiny of this bill. I also thank 17 members for having spoken on the bill and provided invaluable views. The government has made rigorous efforts to reduce waste, expand recycling network, and enhance publicity and public education to reverse the waste disposal volume trend. From 2021 to 2024, municipal solid waste has dropped by 7.5% by volume, and the recovery rate also increased by 28% in 2022 to 33% to 2023. We need the public's support to sustain the efforts. In 2035, the third waste-to-energy facility will be completed so as to achieve zero waste at landfill. Producer responsibility scheme is one policy tools in Hong Kong's waste management strategy. By implementing polluters pays, the concept of eco-responsibility, the scheme requires stakeholders to share the responsibility so that they will be responsible for collection, recycling, treatment, and disposal of waste. Drawing on previous experience of enacting CAP 603, Product Eco-Responsibility Ordinance, as well as the Waste Disposal Ordinance, CAP 354, as well as their subsidiary legislation, we seek to establish a common legislative framework for different product responsibility schemes. As for the implementation details applicable to individual products that will be prescribed in the subsidiary legislation, they are not within the scope of this amendment. This approach will expedite the legislative process and facilitate timely promotion of circular economy. We propose adopting a market-led approach for implementing new PRSs. This will promote market efficiency and enhance industry standards. It will also enable stakeholders to play a more active role, thereby enhancing the efficiency and cost-effectiveness of recovery arrangements. The government will set recovery targets for specific regulated products. Stakeholders such as manufacturers, importers, suppliers, retailers, collectors, and recyclers will have flexibility to either fulfill their responsibilities independently or engage service providers in the market. The bill will also amend Waste Disposal Ordinance Cap 354 and its subsidiary legislation to introduce licensing control for recycling facilities for regulated products, impose permit requirements for the import and export of liquid carton waste and vehicle tire waste, and prohibit the disposal of vehicle tire waste at designated waste disposal facilities under the common legislative framework. These amendments will only take effect when the relevant PRSs are implemented in the future after passage of the bill. The bill also makes technical amendments to the Product Eco-Responsibility Ordinance Cap 603, as well as the Product Eco-Responsibility Plastic Shopping Bags Regulation Cap 603A, to streamline procedures and allow the use of a faster payment system (FPS) or other e-platforms for penalty payments. The Bills Committee commenced work in April this year and concluded its work in June. A total of 5 meetings were held. The Bills Committee also invited public submissions on the bill. We highly value the views expressed by the industry and other stakeholders. We're also grateful for the support of the Bills Committee, which provided insight during the scrutiny process. This is a full demonstration of constructive and positive interaction between the executive and the legislature. Members generally supported the establishment of a common legislative framework to define the common basic operation mechanisms and stakeholder responsibilities. For each PRS regulating individual products, members agreed that specifying operational details and arrangements through subsidiary legislation would enhance the efficiency of the legislative process so that the PRS mechanism can keep abreast with the times. Some members suggested that the subsidiary legislation for future PRSs contain operational details. The subsidiary legislation submitted to Electrical should go through positive vetting so that the Council can discuss the provisions in greater detail. This is to ensure that each scheme is drawn up with regard to practical circumstances and the industry's views. Having considered the committee's views, the government will propose amendments to change the original negative vetting procedures to a positive one for subsidiary legislation for various PRSs in the future. Also, some members expressed concerns that implementing new PRSs might increase operational costs for the relevant industries. We've maintained close communication with the industries. We'll formulate the proposed scheme details based on the feedback and practical circumstances so as to reduce compliance costs. This includes exempting small-scale suppliers from submitting annual audit reports. We have accepted member suggestions. We will move amendments to reduce the procedures for retailers in identifying non-compliant products. At the same time, we'll strengthen publicity and education efforts so as to provide sufficient preparation and adaptation periods to allow the industries ample time to adjust their operations and establish recycling networks. Before implementing the schemes, we will flexibly fine-tune details to ensure smooth implementation. We'll also make sure that there will be flexibility so as to strike a balance between introducing the scheme and facilitating stakeholders. Some members raised concerns about products purchased online via e-commerce platforms being shipped to Hong Kong. We'll monitor developments in this area and explore the need for and methods for strengthening regulation. If the bill is passed today, it will establish a common legislative framework for various PRSs, providing for principal legislation on which subsidiary legislation for individual schemes can be made in the future. Other provisions relating to the schemes and waste control will only take effect in line with the progress of the individual schemes. When formulating detailed arrangements for each scheme in the future, the government will continue to consult with the industry and will also consult the panel on environmental affairs and advisory council on the environment, and will submit the relevant subsidiary legislation to Electrical for vetting at an appropriate juncture. As for technical amendment allowing the Director of Environmental Protection to designate e-payment methods for the plastic shopping bag charging scheme, it will be gazetted and it will take effect on the 1st of August this year. PRSs help promote circular economy. They will create jobs and create business opportunities for the green industries. They'll also drive technological innovation and applications in waste management. President, I so submit. I urge members to support and pass the bill as well as the amendments that I will be moving. And now put the question to you that the promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products miscellaneous amendments bill 2025 be read the second time. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise your hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. Promotion of recycling and proper disposal of products miscellaneous amendments bill 2025. The council now becomes committee of the